So welcome to this week's video. Come here today to Otmoor. Managed to get here just as dawn. What I was hoping to do was to catch the starlings as they were leaving, and literally managed to do that. I was quickly swapping over from my long lens to my wider lens, and I think I've managed to catch it. I'm uncertain whether I can do justice to the sound, because the noise as they lifted off out was just unbelievable. In hindsight, I think I should have allowed myself a little bit more time rushing around, changing the lenses over as they lifted off. It was just so amazing. And although I felt I would struggle to capture the sound, what I didn't realise, with the lens I had, it was a 28 to 200, you couldn't get the full view of what was going on in front of me. Now and again I would pull back from the viewfinder, and you could see they were lifting up at the left and lifting up at the right. It was almost as if the whole of the reed beds was alive. And they seemed to lift up in waves. I zoomed in closer here, you can see how tightly packed in they are. Occasionally they would move, almost leapfrogging each other along the reed beds, before eventually taking off in a flurry. What made it really special, I was the only person there. You just got the impression that it was almost like a biblical swarm of locusts lifting up from the reeds. I must admit, it's quite difficult for me to sort of really estimate the number of birds that are actually here, but later on in the day I managed to speak with one of the volunteers, and the reserve felt that there's approximately 50,000 birds here, and I must admit I couldn't disagree with that estimation. This has got to be one of my top visual and audible spectacles I've witnessed. Well, the plan for the day is I'm going to sort of have a little wander around, have a look at the other hides, and then see if I can settle back here late afternoon for dusk. The number appeared to me to be infinitely more than it was last year, so fingers crossed, if the weather is kind, we should get a good murmuration. Well, let's see what comes. Moving up to the second screen, it was almost empty of birds. Just noticed this snipe. Really do see how the camouflage is suited to this environment. At midday, I decided to walk towards Wetland Hide, and although there weren't many waders about, but in the hedgerow, I could see plenty of smaller birds. couple of weeks ago we just returned from Sweden, where we saw some field fares, so it looks as if they've migrated down to Otmoor. There were about 8 or 9 high up in this tree. It's just a shame that today was a really awful day in respect to the cloud cover, and at one point I really thought that the promised clear sky was going to prevail, but no, the clouds hung over the reserve for the bulk of the day. I returned and settled myself in, hoping that the evening would bring a lovely murmuration. I was entertained by this marsh harrier. The leucistic marsh harriers have left the reserve, and I believe they've been spotted up in Suffolk and beyond. But this behaviour, I've seen them pounce in for their prey before, but this was a new strategy to me. Periodically lifting up, spreading its wings and almost doing a fake dive. I guess she was trying to flush out any birds, but it seemed to repeat the behaviour over the reeds and over the lake as well. It seemed as if the ducks were less than impressed. And just as we were getting closer to dusk, I was really surprised to see a group of about 8 cattle egret coming in to roost. Earlier in the summer, I'd seen a glossy ibis roost here, so it must be a favourite place for these egrets. And just as they'd settled in, the first of the starlings slowly started to arrive, gracefully gathering over the lake. By this time, about 30 to 40 people have arrived, and there were several helpers, and they'd mentioned that over the last week or so, whether it was due to the weather, the initial birds coming in to roost would do a small murmuration and then almost settle on a part of the reeds to roost, and then the remaining birds would just fly straight in. So I was sort of hoping this particular occasion that might deviate from that behaviour. Fortunately, after a few minutes, they settled on a particular part of the reeds over to the left. And then for the rest of the evening, it was just a continuous stream of birds coming into roost. And the noise just seemed to reach an amazing pitch. I focused in on a part of the reeds and you can certainly make out the number of starlings, so much so that the numbers crush the reeds, and each evening they move around to a slightly different part to get that protection and warmth. And as the spectacle drew on, they started to land in different parts of the lake. It really did emphasise to me that in the morning, that was the reason why they would just seem to be lifting up all the way round. It certainly wasn't an impressive murmuration than we had last year. I'll put a link to that. The light was much better, although the number certainly wasn't as great. But I think my favourite part of the day has to be the morning session. To see them lift up almost in unison. Well, I think I'll probably return again, hopefully with a slightly better light later in the winter. Fingers crossed. Just subtly change their behaviour. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, thumbs up, like and subscribe. And as always, it'd be great for you to join me in the next one.